Imagining us people.
It allows us to do that, but we haven't said we're going to do that. And we may be having some discussions with Maduro, and we'll see how that turns out. They would like to talk.
The Trump administration is rapidly escalating its pressure campaign against Venezuela. This week, off the Caribbean Sea, we saw the arrival of America's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford. This carrier strike group is now about to take up a position within striking distance of Venezuela. But President Trump and his aides have not exactly been very clear of what is it that they hope to achieve in Venezuela. Is it a counter-narcotics operation? Is it regime change? Or is it something else? Trump held back-to-back days of meetings this week at the White House, reviewing military options, including the use of special operations forces and direct military action inside Venezuela. If that were to happen, that would be very unusual, particularly in the last 30 to 40 years. It is still not clear whether President Trump has made a decision yet about what kind of action he wants to authorize.
On Venezuela, sir, you've had a lot of meetings on Venezuela. I know you can't tell us what your next steps will be, but can you say, have you made up your mind on what you'd like to do for as far as action?
I sort of have made up my mind now. I mean, I can't tell you what it would be, but I sort of made up.
What do you say to some of your supporters might not be excited about another foreign campaign?
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, I can't tell you what it is, but we made a lot of progress with Venezuela in terms of stopping drugs from pouring in.
It is possible that Trump is relying on the arrival of so much firepower just to intimidate the government of Nicolas Maduro. The United States and many of its allies say that Maduro is not Venezuela's legitimate leader. Maduro, in turn, has put his forces, his army, on high alert, and that has left both countries with their weapons loaded and ready for war. There were signs that the administration was moving into a new and more aggressive posture. Just shortly after these meetings that happened at the White House this week, the War Secretary, Pete Hegseth, posted on social media that the mission in the Caribbean had now got a new name, Southern Spear. He described the goal of Southern Spear as singular, and that was squarely to remove narco-terrorists from America's hemisphere. With the arrival of the USS Gerald Ford and 3 other accompanying naval destroyers, there are currently 15,000 American troops in the region. That is more than at any time in the last few decades. The last time America had so many troops in the Caribbean and in Latin America was in 1989, when America ousted the regime of longtime Panama dictator Manuel Noriega. Donald Trump has been the most consistent when it comes to what Operation Southern Spear actually means. He has been consistently saying that this is all about drugs. But if you were to take the president at face value, it will not explain why the aircraft carrier, the biggest in the US Navy, had to be rushed from the Eastern Mediterranean Sea to the Caribbean Sea. And you don't need such a huge naval warship to be positioned to attack small speedboats. Now, this same anti-drug, anti-narcotic operation, until September or so, was dealt by the US Coast Guard and not by the US Navy. Nor would it explain why Colombia or Mexico are not the target countries, but instead Venezuela. In fact, Colombia and Mexico, these 2 countries, are the main conduit for drugs, and particularly for fentanyl that comes into the United States, not Venezuela.
Venezuela's government saying that it's doing a massive military mobilization in response to what they call a threat from the United States.
Yeah, they don't have a government. There's an illegitimate regime that's basically a narco-trafficking organization that's empowered itself. By the way, many of the countries represented here at the G7 don't recognize the Maduro regime as a legitimate government. So I don't generally respond to what they're saying. Suffice it to say that the problem we have is that the senior leader of that regime, of that illegitimate regime, is also indicted in the United States in the Southern District of New York.
So far, the United States has launched 20 strikes on speedboats, and that has killed at least 80 people in an operation which many legal experts say might violate international law. There are also reports that Trump has told his aides about Venezuela's huge oil reserves. Venezuela is estimated to have something like 300 billion barrels of oil. Some even say it could possibly be the largest in the world. Trump reportedly had an offer from Maduro that would have essentially given the United States the rights to all of Venezuela's oil without resorting to military action. But for some unexplained reason, and a reason perhaps best known to him, Trump called off those talks and walked back on that offer. And instead now, there is the deployment of the aircraft carrier, which was a means to try and gain leverage over Nicolas Maduro. If that is the case, then it would be a return to the era of gunboat diplomacy. It's a phrase that caught on in the 19th century as great powers used their naval capabilities to intimidate lesser powers, including at that time Venezuela. Venezuela was the target of a European naval blockade from 1902 to 1903, and just as that blockade was coming to an end, the US Navy intervened. They supported Panama, and Panama seceded from Colombia, paving the way for the construction of the Panama Canal. But that was over 100 years ago. Today, the buildup of troops off the coast of Venezuela, and the critical question at the center of it is whether Donald Trump wants regime change in Venezuela. Maduro has been named as the head of a narco-terrorist drug cartel. Under American law, he's being viewed as a narco-terrorist. He's a fugitive from American law and from the American justice system. Could Trump be hoping to install a friendlier government in Venezuela after ousting Nicolas Maduro? But some in the Trump White House deny this theory. Just beneath this surface, the conflict is coming down to a test of wills between Donald Trump and Nicolas Maduro. Maduro has been indicted as the head of the Cartel of the Suns, which is now a designated terrorist organization. The American Armada cannot stay forever in the Caribbean Sea. Either Trump is going to war with Venezuela, or Maduro is going to survive this one. It's only a matter of time before there is a more dangerous turn of events off the choppy waters in the Caribbean Sea.
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.